What's poppin', people? It's Dante. Today we're going to be discussing repetition in street photography. We're going to be looking at some behind the scenes of some contact sheets, some photographs of mine, and even looking at some videos and discuss why repetition matters and why it's so important for us to go out there with consistency and repetition in order to improve our intuition and our ability to put order to the chaos of the spontaneous nature of life out there on the streets. And so I find that the streets are out of our control. However, through honing in on repetition and having this almost autistic obsession with walking the same mundane lane every single day in your hometown, you'll have a sharpened awareness of your surroundings that will deepen your observations and allow you to notice patterns. And so here I'm going to be sharing with you this interesting moment that came through a lot of photographs being made, came through me walking the same lane over and over again and repeating the same idea time and time again. As you can see here, I'm photographing a pigeon in flight atop of City Hall here in Philadelphia. And in order for me to make this photograph here, I had to have a heightened awareness of the possibility of the photograph. Essentially, I would walk the same way each and every day, understanding the patterns of the birds, understanding the way that they fly and the patterns that exist in nature, in the way that the light falls at certain times, and the way that the pigeons fly at what time. And so essentially, in order to make this frame, I photographed in the same vantage point at the same place over and over again for about 2 weeks straight in order to achieve this composition. And essentially what intrigues me about this frame and my goal of making this photograph was to have an interaction between the iconic William Penn sculpture on top of City Hall in relationship to the pigeons in flight. The very surprising and detail that makes this frame more interesting is that long beam of light that emphasizes that beauty in the frame, and we have some pigeons on the poles there in the background. And so essentially by walking the same way over and over again, you become so in tune with the rhythm and the beat of the street, and you can predict the patterns of the birds in flight or the way the light casts on certain days. You can understand at what time of the day people are most busy when they're smoking their cigarettes during their lunch break. So when you become in tune with these patterns, you can essentially force your luck and force your ability to photograph these decisive moments. And so here at this scene, we're going to look at a behind the scenes video of me describing what I was hoping to manifest in the photograph. Essentially, a week before I made this picture, I was speaking out loud to myself as I was photographing here at the scene about my idea on how I can achieve this composition. Agreed. I want them to fly in front of this, and imagine if I could get a shot where the bird is like touching William Penn or some sort of interesting interaction. That would be interesting between William Penn and the birds. Onward. And so by observing the patterns and walking the same mundane route over and over again, you'll deepen your connection to your surroundings. You'll reveal these hidden moments that otherwise go unnoticed. And I find that the example I share here in the beginning of this video of the pigeons in flight is a very good example because of how unpredictable pigeons really are. They fly so spontaneously. However, I genuinely believe that through becoming hyper aware of your surroundings and recognizing these patterns, you can put order to the chaos in the frame. And so this comes through repetition. And through repetition, not only by walking the same route each and every day, but by observing the patterns, we can increase our ability to hone in on our intuition and understand how to create these kind of photographs. And so there's this balance between photographing with repetition and putting order to the chaos, where the streets are out of our control, the movements of people are out of our control, but the moment you press the shutter, at that decisive moment, your gut and your instinct is what guides you to press the button. Your gut and your instinct is the result of the photograph, really. And so I find that by recognizing that not only do we have our two eyes that see the world and perceive with our connection to our mind, but we're photographing from our heart, from our gut. Our instinct is what drives us to press the shutter. And so in order to increase our ability to photograph and to make photographs that are of these sort of decisive, spontaneous moments, and to sort of increase our ability to make photographs through our intuition. I believe that we must treat photography like a muscle, similar to weight training, where I go to the gym each and every day in hopes to increase my muscle mass, reduce my fat, and become stronger. Essentially, photography, it's the same thing. I find that with the gym, it's very similar, where if you don't use it, you lose it. And so in order to become a better photographer, one must treat it like weight training, where you go out there and you compound the time spent and the reps spent. Over time, you will essentially increase your ability to make better photographs. And so the more that you walk, the more that you see. The more that you see, the more that you photograph. The more that you photograph, the more that you learn and grow, and the more that you're going to want to go out there and make more photographs, and the cycle repeats. And so the power of daily practice is so critical to me, where I have no excuses, and I have this zero excuse mindset, similar to me hitting the gym every day, where even if I go into the gym and hit the pull-up bar and do some push-ups or pull-ups, whatever I do for 10 to 15 minutes, at least I did something instead of doing nothing, right? And so it's the same thing with photography, where if you only have 30 minutes during a lunch break or you're commuting to work, still I encourage you to just carry the camera with you and have no excuses and always put the reps in. I think that this is how greatness is made, where essentially it takes a lot of time to make strong photographs, and the more you compound time of you doing the thing itself, you will improve through repetition. And so I find that there's something to be said about the idea of photography being a physical pleasure, of walking. And so the more that you walk, the more that you see, and ultimately photograph. And so please, I encourage you to go out there with repetition, to photograph and find yourself in this flow state of production, and to not sit behind the computer screen dwelling on how to make certain compositions, but go out there and hone in on the craft in order to heighten your intuition. And your ability to photograph with repetition will ultimately determine the results of your photographs. Your ability to go out there and walk each and every day with your camera and hone in on making new photographs will increase your ability to make stronger photographs. And so essentially, there's something very practical about honing in on repetition, where my personal suggestion is to find a particular route that you can follow each and every day in your hometown and stick to it. Stick to it for a year straight. Find yourself walking the same mundane lane over and over again. And when you get into this habit of going to the same location at the same time every single day throughout the change of seasons, you'll have a better understanding of what times are more busy, when people are moving out of the offices, where the light falls at certain times. And you'll find yourself in this flow state where you no longer have to, rely on the unpredictability of the street, but things do become more predictable, and you can actually become so in tune with the rhythm and the beat of the street, where making the effort to revisit the same location time and time again will increase your ability to make stronger photographs. Here's an example that I want to share with you, where I'm photographing at a bus stop here in Philadelphia. And I would photograph at bus stops very frequently as a way for me to practice the layering technique. As I understand at certain times a day when people are coming and going using the bus stop, there is energy there, there's people there, people are walking to and fro, people are sitting down on the chairs, people are standing and waiting for their bus. And while I position my body here at this scene because of the beautiful light, I also understand at what time of the day people are most active at this bus stop. And so by understanding the dynamics of the streets with repetition, by going out there and practicing every day at these bus stops, I've been able to hone in on the layering technique and master it over the years here in my hometown. And so I encourage you, if you're curious about making photographs of more layered and dynamic scenes, find yourself at bus stops at certain times of the day and go back to that bus stop time and time again and practice your street photography on repeat, because you can force your luck. As much as I can understand the way the light falls, it's out of my control, right? The way the light falls at certain situations and certain scenes, it's unpredictable. The way that people move is unpredictable. But I believe by understanding where to position yourself and your camera in relationship to the moment, in relationship to the light, you can create and force your own luck. And so here I'm going to share with you another example of me photographing a rainbow here in Logan Square, Philadelphia, where essentially I repeated the same walk around this circle over and over again for many hours. And it wasn't until a couple hours later that I recognized at what angle I must position my body to recognize the rainbow. And so I went into the water, and I had persistence, courage, and the dedication to making this photograph of this rainbow. And once again, I speak this photograph into existence as I'm exclaiming to myself in the beginning of the video that I'm going to photograph the rainbow, and I'm going to photograph a particular moment at this rainbow. And so you'll see in this video exactly what I mean about forcing your luck through repetition and through doing the thing and trying again and again.
I'm gonna photograph the rainbow. I'm gonna photograph the rainbow. I'm speaking it into existence. Somebody's gonna leap in front of it in a glorious position, and I'm going to photograph it right now. I'm gonna be patient and I'm gonna wait here because I believe that I'm going to capture this image with all of my heart. I'm going to sit inside of this water until it happens.
And so while failure is a part of the process, getting comfortable with failure through repetition will get you closer to making stronger compositions, stronger photographs. And so essentially, I go out there with an affirming mindset where I know that my next photo is my best photo. I affirm that I'm going to make great photographs because ultimately this puts me in a positive mindset and an approach to the streets where I essentially affirm my life and I affirm the ability of my photography through the click of the shutter. And here at this scene, it's a perfect manifestation of my vision through affirming to myself and speaking this into existence that I'm going to photograph this moment, I'm going to photograph this rainbow, honing in on repetition through walking around this Logan Square fountain for hours and hours, and then finally realizing where I must position myself to make the photograph. I was able to go in there and achieve the result of the photograph. And so I highly encourage you to go out there with repetition and stay disciplined and consistent and be persistent, as photography is a lifelong game, and ultimately it takes so much time compounded to make stronger photographs. And so as long as you're out there and you're in the flow state of making new photographs, as long as you know that you went out today with your camera and made a couple of photos each and every day for a year, for 2 years, for a few years, you will find that you are improving over time. It's really important to stay consistent. It's important to go out there with repetition, to become in tune with the rhythm and the beat of the street, where you can observe the way that people move and understand when to press the shutter through your intuition. By recognizing these patterns, by going out there consistently, you will improve your photography over time. And so hopefully some of the ideas and some of the videos and photos that I shared with you today give you a better understanding on how to increase your ability to recognize when to press the shutter, to increase your ability to make stronger photographs by going out there with repetition, by practicing daily and being consistent with a route and understanding at what time of the day the light falls, at what time of the day people move on the street. You will find that you can increase your success rate. You can force your luck. As much as street photography is a difficult process, as much as you fail out there on the streets over and over again, you can seriously hone in on the ability for you to make stronger photographs through repetition, through consistency and persistence. And so I just want to emphasize to shoot daily, to always have a camera with you, and to remember that photography requires you to be out there in the open world, walking, exploring, and photographing endlessly, and that you have a lifetime to make photographs. And so ultimately, if you photograph more, you will make better photographs. Great end to the video. And so yeah, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.